Cybersecurity is getting more and more center stage. And along with cybersecurity, a new discipline of cyber law is emerging, known as cybersecurity law. So 2016, companies will have to quickly brace themselves up, not just in terms of getting the requisite security mechanisms on their networks, but most significantly, complying with increasingly new requirements on cybersecurity compliances that different national legislations and respective rules and regulations are going to come across. Already, regulators are now beginning to mandate the relevant companies within their networks to mandate the recording and reporting of cybersecurity breaches. So quickly, companies will have to be prepared on how they're going to respond to a potential cybersecurity breach, how they're going to report the same, and more significantly, how they're going to take appropriate legal mechanisms, practices, and procedures in place, as also policies and strategies, so as to potentially limit the potential legal exposure of the companies per se. In India, 9 out of 10 companies in India are not really complying with the Information Technology Act 2000 in complete entirety. And there are some companies which do not even know about the IT Act and are not even aware that the provisions of the Indian cyber law are applicable to their operations. But the law is crystal clear. If you are using any computers, computer systems, computer networks, computer resources, or communication devices, as also data and information in the electronic form, you are covered under this law. So ignorance of law is no excuse in the eyes of law, and I will actually encourage all companies in India, whether they are physically located in India or they are targeting computer systems or networks located in India, that they must comply with the relevant requisite compliances under the Information Technology Act 2000, as also the rules and regulations made thereunder. Life for CISOs are going to get more and more complicated in 2016. There are new, constantly evolving technology paradigms that they have to deal with, whether it's the BYOD, whether it's the Internet of Things, whether it's wearables, whether it's injectables. And in a scenario like this, the bigger issue will be how do they take appropriate steps, not only to protect the corporate networks and the confidential data resident therein, but more significantly, how do they protect their corporates from potential exposure to legal liability in the coming times. And I think it's here that the law is giving them a big hint. The law is saying, if you are an intermediary, please comply with your requirements of due diligence, which you have to show when you are exercising your duties under the law. Please have in place the appropriate compliances under the Indian cyber law. Please act proactively and do not abet or conspire in the commission of any offense. And as and when you are called upon to remove or disable access to anything which is illegal or which is criminal in nature on your network, you must instantaneously do the same. The problem is that 9 out of 10 people in India who are using smartphones are dependent on these over-the-top applications. And the majority of these are like WhatsApp. People are downloading them without reading their terms and conditions, without understanding that their terms and conditions crystal clearly say that whatever you're going to post on their networks, whether it's audio, video, image or text, is going to be public information, and that there will be no privacy of any kind whatsoever that will be attached to the said public information. And people are blissfully unaware of these requirements of their terms and conditions and are sharing not just personal information, but also confidential information and trade secrets on WhatsApp. Recently documented case, a company decided to make WhatsApp as the only means of their communication and to do away with email. Within 24 hours, the company realized that its confidential information had been gone out of the company's network and had landed in the hands of the competition. So I think people need to be extremely careful of how they deal with these over-the-top applications. We are not saying that don't deal with them at all. What we are saying is please do your due diligence, read their terms and conditions, and be particularly satisfied as to how they are going to deal with your data. And if you are convinced that how they deal with your data really is in sync with your expectations of privacy, then go ahead and use that. 2016 is going to see a bigger cocktail of social media and mobile, bringing in far more new technological, legal, policy and regulatory challenges for stakeholders. And companies will have to increasingly be aware that they will have to be taking a very balanced and a cautious approach. They cannot lock social media out. At the same time, they'll have to increasingly be conscious to take appropriate steps to protect the corporate information from being unauthorizedly accessed or leaked on social networks per se. 2016 is going to see a huge number of new compliance requirements coming in as far as cybersecurity is concerned, and that will be equally applicable in the context of social media and the mobiles per se. So 2016 has a bigger message. It's a very uncertain world that we are going to wake up to. In this scenario, the best way will be, please do your consolidation, ensure that you protect yourselves, comply with the law, and more significantly, take a holistic approach on how you're going to deal with these challenges as and when they emerge in the coming times. My only small request to CISOs in India will be, please actually go back to your top management and emphasize upon them the need for ensuring the documented compliances under the Indian cyber law to be in place for your company. Why? Because if those compliances are not there, then the companies in their capacities as intermediaries will continue to be liable both for civil and criminal consequences under the Indian Information Technology Act 2000. I will actually encourage all the CISOs to go ahead and ensure that their operations are compliant with the mandatory requirements of the Information Technology Act 2000 and rules and regulations made thereunder. In addition, please also ensure that your companies and your operations are complying with these new latest guidelines and notifications that the government is now slowly bringing along, which have impact pertaining to corporate networks and electronic data. In the Mahabharata legend, we have seen Lord Krishna giving the Gita discourse. And in his discourse, he's crystal clear. He gives this message that you come within my ambit, within my sharan, and I will protect you. I think the Indian cyber law has a similar kind of a message. The message that the Indian IT Act is given to all stakeholders is, please come within my ambit, comply with my terms, and I will ensure that no harm actually befalls upon you. And that's a statutory exit from liability for all companies. So I think that will be a good starting point for companies who have not yet woken up to their mandatory compliance requirements to ensure that they take hold of these statutory benefits that the law provides and be on the right side of law.